ship a lot of our tonnage to the West Coast, in particular to California. And we have a major customer on the West Coast that receives a large percentage of our production. We obviously are very concerned that we ship our product in the right form and it is received in the right form. Part of our process is to add value to the product all the way through, and the last step in that process is surely the delivery to the customer. In this particular case, we were delivering product to the customer that was in some pretty bad shape, and it was to the point where it was unusable. And to a large degree, it was also unsafe because of the methods that they were having to use to unload the tonnage that was in the car, and it had been pretty well scattered around the car from transit damage.
The biggest thing that changed it was we finally had a printer in California who said enough is enough. We put up with this, we are not going to put up with it anymore. That brought a certain consciousness to the mill.
Our production control people took the ball and started to run with it. They defined the problem, first of all, and that took some trips of our people out to the West Coast to visit the customer to get a good definition of exactly what was happening.
Initially, we just took the view that it wasn't our fault, it was the railroad's fault. Once we got out there and saw the loads, how loose they were and stuff, we knew that we were part of the problem.
So we decided that the process that we would use in trying to solve this problem would be to build a partnership with Burlington Northern.
And at that time, the Burlington Northern had a quality program in place, and we grabbed it with open arms, and with their assistance, pursued that problem with a vengeance.
Many of our suppliers, when we enter into partnering with them, are suspicious, they're defensive. It's very difficult to break the barrier, to get over that hump, to get into a mode that you're actually beginning to work with the customer and the supplier and looking for the end result. In the case of Burlington Northern, we didn't have that problem. They were very receptive to the process, and there was no problem with barriers whatsoever.
It wasn't one problem like we initially thought. It was many problems all adding to it. Once we worked together as a team, it seemed to come together real good.
I'm on the CAT team for Champion. I've been up to Champion. I've had most of my carmen up. I take them up different times to have a tour of Champion paper. Also, I've had Champion paper, Tony Woerner and his loaders down to see our operation. And through that communication, we found out a lot of things that I didn't know about loading paper, and they didn't know about fixing cars.
Initially, I was real skeptical. I thought they were just here to listen, let me cry on their shoulder, and nothing was going to ever happen of it. I've seen a lot of that in the past, and I felt that's probably where we're at. But I figured it's worth a shot.
It was really neat. We came down in the morning and were welcomed and taken on a complete tour of the clean-out track area and given a very excellent explanation of what type of cars were brought in, what needed to be worked, how they were graded, and then how they were upgraded. One of the things that surprised me was that they actually put a man inside the car, closed the door to check for light to see if there's any leakage.
When the steel floor was loose along the sides of the car, we used to put a little angle iron to hold the floor down. We found out they can't load a car that way. It makes an indentation on the roll of paper. Consequently, we don't do it anymore. Now we jack the floors down and weld them from underneath when we get a loose floor. I had no idea that a little pebble would ruin a roll of paper. Their loaders found out a lot of things about opening doors. When they were down here, they'd ask questions about, well, what happens when this doesn't work? And we'd explain some things to them that, well, this is all you have to do to make a door work.
I thought this was going to be something that lasted 2 meetings and that was going to be the end of it. It would go on. But it just kept growing. I mean, the more often you meet, the more you work on a problem. It just seems there's other ones that's there to solve. Not as big of problems, but they're still there.
They were willing to work with me and asked me how it was as a car loader, the person actually putting the paper into the car. They were very interested in my input. One of the things we discussed a lot was we had a trouble with a particular diameter roll, and they would come up with an idea of how to load, and I would say, well, that will work if they're all the same size, because bottom line, I was the one putting it in the car.
They're quite happy with our process, and I'm quite happy with what I've learned from Champion.
Frankly, I'm amazed at the progress that we've made with the CAT team. It's been a model for our company. Right now, we're into the change process, And this is just one small success story in the change process. And frankly, all of us here at Champion are very proud of the work that's been done with Champion and the Burlington Northern.
It's really been a learning process for me, and I think for everybody. To me now, when I have a problem, I look to solve it in this direction rather than just complaining. I guess now we're talking to each other instead of down to each other, and it's really helped us.
Late in the year of 1991, we were trying to figure out how to categorize the damage lost in rail shipments. The Burlington Northern quality people came up with a term, the price of nonconformance. And the price of nonconformance can be easily seen behind me. That is a good example of what our paper, our product, looks like when it comes out of a boxcar at many of our printing plants. There is a dollar cost associated with that, but more importantly, there is a service cost, a customer satisfaction cost that is extremely high. Over a period of time, unloading paper such as that at a printing plant will cost us that printer's business. That is intolerable and cannot continue. For us, it's a loss of customer. For the railroad, it's a loss of business as well, because no one in their right mind would continue receiving paper in that condition.
If we do not get the support of the Burlington Northern in a team effort, we're both going to lose. BM will lose that part of the business that we would have had right along with us. So it's, if we don't cooperate, it's a lose-lose situation. If we do cooperate, it's a win-win situation.
If we didn't have a quality process in place, Champion Paper would probably look for someone else to do their business because they're involved in a quality process and they want the people that supply them with their boxcars to be involved in a quality process also.
Well, it's changed tremendously. I myself just personally see a 95% improvement. What I see of the cars coming in from Northtown, they came up with a quality sticker that when you see that on the boxcar, it is definitely, we know that the car is going to be ready for paper. Before, we had to look and sort of guess.
The ultimate and ideal situation would be to have every shipment that leaves this plant arrive at the customer's plant or printing plant or warehouse, wherever it may be, perfect condition, so that we are totally damage-free. That's our ultimate goal.
Since last November, we have shipped 141 cars to Torrance without a damage claim, and according to the people at Torrance, without any damage in the cars, period. That is unprecedented in rail shipping.
And I also firmly believe that had this not been accomplished between us and Northern and damage-free shipments gotten into Torrance, we probably would no longer have our Donnelly Torrance as a customer of ours.
And the end result has been very positive. In fact, our customer now tells us that instead of being probably the worst deliverer of product, we have gone to the top. A lot of our competitors are trying to catch up with us now, their product. I give a lot of value and credit to both Champion and Burlington North because it was a severe problem and it had to be solved. Our anticipation, the amount of production that we're going to be making over the next few years and shipping to California and this is going to increase. Our options are to ship it several different ways. We could either ship it by rail, in the worst case we could ship it by truck. But it doesn't matter how you ship it, the primary objective is to get it there in a form that the customer can use it. So if we had to ship it by truck, it might cost us some, but we would have to do that to maintain our reputation. Preferably, we would rather ship by rail.
Well, we satisfy customers, we're going to get more customers. Champion's going to start talking to other people saying, hey, this is for Burlington Northern. Consequently, somebody else will say, I want the same thing. We're going to have more men down here. We're going to have a bigger clean-out track and a better operation.